So I'd like to spend a little bit of time comparing feedback to a traditional understanding of information, because I think we've all grown up and to some degree probably live in a culture that has a more traditional understanding of information, and it's basically based on the idea that there are right answers and wrong answers. If you give the right answers, you'll be rewarded, and if you give the wrong answers, you won't get that reward, or you may even be punished. So that's a traditional understanding of information, and understandably when you're asking people questions then they're inclined to want to give you the answers that are right, or that they believe you will perceive as right, so they'll be rewarded and they certainly don't want to get punished. The problem with that though is that it limits the information you can get. It limits the integrity and the accuracy of the information you get, which limits your ability to adjust and do things about things. So I'm not a big fan of the traditional understanding of information. I don't think it's particularly useful in most circumstances. Actually, it really gets in the way a lot. So let's just compare that to a feedback understanding of information, which is very different. Feedback, really what you're trying to get is just accurate information about where things are at. And when you get that, all you ever do in response is you accept it, you're supportive, you're understanding. You offer, how can we work on this together? If things aren't quite where you'd like them to be, that's totally fine. It's totally okay. I'm so glad you told me, so we can be aware of this, we can talk about it, we can figure it out together, so that they only get support for the information. And if the information is really good, you're going to say, oh, that's really good. I'm glad things are working out great. I'm glad you have positive feelings and you feel there's a good connection here. Maybe tell me more about that so we can sustain it, maybe even build on it. And if the information is, I'm really distressed, I'm finding this difficult, whatever they are, whatever the problem areas are, I said, I'm really glad you told me that. This is really good to know, because we need to work on this together and we'll figure out some answers. Let's apply that to a school setting. So, for example, you can apply it at work, you can apply it in, programs and communities and all kind of areas. But let's just take an example of a school setting. So a traditional understanding of information is you get tested. If you get really good answers, great, good job, you're a good person, you've done a fantastic job, we're proud of you. If you get poor answers, if your grades aren't too good, life might be stressful for you, you might get in some trouble, there might be some, who knows what will go on. Not a good thing anyway, so because there can be a lot of fear and anxiety around exams, understandably. But if you change that to a feedback model, if somebody does really well, so glad, you feel connected to the work, you have positive feelings about it, it's good, you're getting good grades, that's great. And if somebody's really struggling, chances are they don't feel that interested or connected. Chances are, some of those internal factors aren't present. And if you can discuss it with them in a safe way that they feel comfortable about, chances are you're going to make a lot of progress, and their academic performance and their behaviours and their compliance and all that stuff are going to really improve. But if you do stuff to somebody when there's concerns around academic performance or behaviour or compliance, and you do something that alienates them from the school and their peers and the teachers and distresses them, you're going to get stuck. Those things aren't going to improve. But if you respond to those things with understanding that this is where they're at, we'd like to move in a positive direction towards something, let's talk about it together, let's help you have a really positive connection with things, let's figure out what that looks like for you, and things are likely to move in a really positive direction. So that's just a particular application of moving from a traditional understanding of information to a feedback understanding of information. And obviously I hold my hands up, I'm not a big fan of the traditional way of doing things, and I really think there's tremendous benefits from just developing a feedback understanding of information.